Hi everyone, it is Tracy Chamberlain, Higginbotham of Women Ties here with another Women of the Week interview. And this time it's an honor to be with Marion Andrews, who joined Women Ties within the past year. And I have to admit that there's something about her that I absolutely love. And I think that it's her grateful attitude towards her life. And you'll hear a little bit more about that. And her business. She's an author, she teaches Reiki. There's just a lot of wonderful things about her. So I hope you stay tuned for this whole interview and you will walk away inspired. I know it. Welcome, Marion. How are you today?
Thank you, Tracy. Oh, I'm good. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for having me. I appreciate this opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always love seeing you on Zoom because you have that beautiful blue background that always just brings me immediately to a sunny sky or to the
Yes.
ocean side. So I almost wore blue for you today because I know that you always have blue in your background, but I didn't want to confuse anybody. Well, I think you and I have some similarities, probably like some of the women that are listening to us. You and I both had health situations that inspired us to write our own books.
Yes.
Um, I think to share our journeys, but also to provide some wisdom to women that might and men that are facing the same thing. So, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about your book, Gloriously Grateful?
Thank you. Well, it's a story of my journey through stage 4 colon cancer. Um, it was something I had no idea that would be in my life at all, is colon cancer. We don't have it in, I'm in a, from a large family. We don't have any cancer or colon cancer.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, this can't possibly be happening to me.
Right.
And so I take you through the diagnosis and then treatment. And I tried to make it as honest as I could, because people need to know what actually they're going to face sometimes. It's hard when you get that diagnosis, it knocks you way, wow. But then the book is to kind of get you through that part and then find out how to go back to living in the real world. So I hope it encourages people that no matter what kind of a bad situation you're in, that there's glimmers of joy, there's glimmers of hope, there's glimmers of gratitude in there.
Right. And how long was your journey from, as you just mentioned, we do not have anyone with cancer in our family. And so I am not aware of kind of the process as much as other people are. How long of a period was it for you from like the time you were diagnosed to, the time you wrote the book? I mean, was there a time frame
Okay.
there?
Well, I mean, I started having issues with my stomach, and it was like I was sore, I was hurting, it was annoying. And I kept going to the doctor saying, there's something going on. Like, know your own body is that message.
Right.
And I knew there was something, but we went through ulcers and special diets and this, because cancer was just not on that. Okay.
Yeah.
Have breast cancer in our family and some other types of cancer, but not this one. So it just never even came across my radar. It was
Mm.
like, whoa. So finally, I started throwing up. I would eat, I would throw up. Then a couple of days would go by, and I went to the doctor and I said, okay, this is not me.
Yeah.
This is not how it goes. I don't throw up. The only time I throw up is when I'm pregnant.
Mm.
And seeing as I'm 65 and don't have any of that plumbing, I don't think that's what's going on. So he suggested a colonoscopy. Well, no, I'm sorry, first an endoscopy. So this was a period of about 4 months that I
Okay.
was going to this. So went for the endoscopy, nothing, except it was a little red at the bottom. And they said, well, you should have a colonoscopy. And I said, I've had one all the time since I'm 50, never had a polyp,
All right.
never anything. that's just ridiculous. And I was like muttering and carrying on about it. And so, but he said, well, that's the only way we're going to see the whole picture. Okay. So I went. It was June 13th. It was a Friday. I'll never forget it. I'm not superstitious. Friday 13s are good days for me. So I went, and the whole time I'm thinking, this is just ridiculous. You know how you get so
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And it happened that the nurse didn't get the wonderful drug in me fast enough. So I'm
good.
watching the
Oh,
colonoscopy.
Lord.
Okay, so I'm seeing, and it's pink, 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 and I'm thinking, see, I knew it, pink, pink. And then I see this awful looking blackish sore.
Wow.
And by then the drug is starting to work, and he's snipping little pieces off. And my last thought was, why is he cutting that? It's ugly. You know?
Yeah, right. Oh my gosh.
And so I came out, and of course, by coming out, I was still quite drugged because it had started late. So he's telling me in a very quiet voice, because a friend was with me, and she's very hard of hearing, so she couldn't have heard him anyway. But he's speaking to me very quietly and saying, we found something quite serious. You need to have a CT scan immediately. My office will, and I'm like, wow. Thank you. Yes, great. I'm out of here. Goodbye. It's just like, he must have thought, this woman is, I'm telling her she might have cancer, and she's going, thank you. Bye. So that was a Friday. By the Wednesday following, my regular doctor had set up a surgical appointment. I had met with the surgeon, got the results of the CT scan. It was definitely cancer, and it had already spread to the lymph nodes.
Wow.
So I was in surgery within the next week. So from diagnosis to surgery was like about 10 days. And then I started my chemo on August 1st. So that was 2014. And it was like, whoa, 6 months. And I'm, you know, and it was so ironic because it was like, I can't believe this. You know, I'm sure anyone, when they first hear cancer, goes, that can't be true. But I was like, this really can't be true.
Right. Oh my God. Especially, I think, if you don't have a history of it in your family. I think, you know, I guess from my perspective, I've always said, oh, you know, we're lucky we don't have anybody within either side of my family with cancer. But then again, I know what you were saying, because I represent so many women entrepreneurs, and you know, I would say within a year period of time, there's usually 4 or 5 that come forward and tell me they've been diagnosed with breast cancer, they're recovering from breast cancer, they had breast cancer. And so it's shocking to me, because most of them have not had any family history of breast cancer either. So it's so important that we have our annual colonoscopies and our annual mammograms, because you can't see what's inside your body. You need those x-rays and those special procedures to find out sometimes.
Absolutely. My sister had breast cancer when she was like in her early 40s. So since that time, I've had every year a mammography. And I'm thinking, well, if they told me I had breast cancer, I'd believe that.
Right.
But this was like, whoa.
Now, was it Katie Couric whose husband had the colon cancer, and she became so vocal and honest about it? I think she was maybe still on the morning show when she actually did like a live colonoscopy.
Yes, she did. Yes, because her husband was diagnosed and did not last very long at all. Normally with that kind of colon cancer, especially when it's already spread into the lymph nodes, it's pretty risky. In fact, what they told me, you know, I was one of these people that said, I will never have chemotherapy. Look at what it does to you. You're putting poison in your body. And I would go on and on and on about seeing how bad it was. So I'm sitting there, and they're giving me options for treatment. And they said chemotherapy is the best one because it's spread, and so this will go all over. And I'm going, I don't like this at all. So then I said, so I like to have all the facts. So what are the odds on this? And he said, you have about a 20% chance of living for a year if you don't have chemo. And I went, hmm. But he said, you have about an 80% chance of living for 5 years if you have the chemo.
Right.
So I'm thinking, oh, I
Right.
don't like it. I don't want it, but I made the decision to have it.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad I did, even though it was horrible. But
Everything I can see. You know, I became I think, very fortunate. I grew up with an uncle who was a medical doctor. My two cousins followed in his footsteps and became doctors. And I think because I had such a comfort level with people in the medical field, I was really I've always been an advocate for my health. I've always known when I haven't felt well, even if another doctor has said something, I know what's going on and I could make the right decisions for myself. And so it sounds like, you do that too. Sometimes we don't know what decisions we're going to make until we're in this situation.
no, but when you're sitting there, whew,
Yeah.
you got to make the decision. And
Yeah.
I made it. And I'm the kind of a person that once I get all the facts in front of me that I'm understand, I'll research, I'll look at everything. And then when I make a decision, that's it. I just follow through with it. Like after I made it, it was okay. When do we start? How does this go? What happens?
Right, let's do it.
So I take everyone through that journey in my book, because I think that first part especially is the message is really know your own body. And if you feel like you got something on, keep going and going and going until you're satisfied.
Right. And I can relate in the sense that I was, fairly healthy most of my life. And I had alopecia, which is, for anybody that's listening, it's an autoimmune disorder. Your good cells in your body attack your hair cells. And so I've had, I've lost my hair in spots since I was 25, but it wasn't until 3 years ago that I lost all of my hair and became a bald woman. So this is a beautiful wig that I wear because I want to still look professional. And I became grateful in my journey with alopecia. It took a little while. Once I really realized that losing all of my hair was never going to take me away from my sons or the people I loved, or even the business that I love doing. When did you become grateful in your process? Was it through it? Was it after you survived it? When did you feel that gratefulness?
Well, I've been very fortunate in that I've always had a really upbeat attitude and personality. Okay. And when I was younger, I was involved in some multi-level marketing businesses that gave me access to speakers like Brian Tracy. In fact, Brian Tracy's original starting I was at, and people like Zig Ziglar and all sorts of motivational. And I read all these books. The first book I read way back a long time ago was Cybernetics by Matthew Maltz.
Okay.
And it just blew me away. It's like, okay, we can overcome anything. I mean, our brains work this way. It was totally logical. So I had all those things in the background that I wasn't using. I was going along very calmly in my new life here in the US, because I'm from Canada. And so I didn't know when I was learning that in my 20s and 30s, how much I was going to need it.
Yes.
Then it's like, oh, I'm so glad I learned these things. I've always thought thoughts were things. And so in the process of getting to the chemo, they give you a lot of counseling and help. And so they're saying, meditation is important and journaling is important, and these things will really help you. And so I'm going, wow, this is great. Yeah. Am I ever glad I'm learning about these things? And yet I had this, training in my background that said, write it down, it'll happen, And so I was just like little bits of it. And the journaling led me to writing an online journal at caringbridge.com, which is
I love Caring Bridge.
Yeah. So rather, I have an extended family. all over. So rather than write 50 or 60 emails every night and copy and paste,
Very
I
true.
went to Bridge and started writing on there. And people would say, "Oh, I love your attitude. You know, you tell things in a kind of a funny way when, you know, I mean, it isn't fun,
You have to
but
have a sense of humor.
but you gotta, you know, I gotta tell you a little story about a wig that's in my book,
Yeah.
but I, uh, I didn't think losing my hair was going to be a problem. It's like, it's only hair. It's no big deal. I've always had very easy hair to take care of and just, okay. So I don't think this is going to be a problem until it starts to come out. And every time I'm going like this, I have a handful of hair and I'm going, whoa.
I know.
And then I went to my hairdresser and she kindly cut it off to be really short so that it wasn't as obvious. And then I thought, I'll get some wigs. So I got a wig and all this. I actually got 3, but anyway. So this one day for my treatment on a Friday, going down to the cancer clinic, I had my wig on and I put eye makeup on. I even put eyeshadow. Like I was just so perfect that day. Just like, I'm doing it. So I get there and go through the whole thing. And after about an hour, I take my IV pole, my buddy, and go to the washroom. And I look in the mirror and the wig has crept up like this in a big peak. And I had one of those little caps on underneath because I had short hair in some places. So I had this thing here that looked like Carol Burnett's washerwoman, you know, right here. And my wig was like, oh my God, I've been looking like this for an hour thinking I look great. Had I brought a hat or anything, I would have just taken it all off, but I didn't. So the rest of the afternoon was wig maintenance.
Yes, I have been there. I have done that. I can tell you, but that's where you get to, you know, I think we don't think about it, whether you're a woman entrepreneur, an author, you need humor to get through tough times. I'm very thankful both my parents were very humorous individuals, and because if I didn't have my humor, I don't think I could and still try to get through being somebody who does have those wig issues. Yeah. I think I pushed it back once in there's that movie It Out, and I said to my sons, I said, don't I look like the clown from It? And we got laughing so hysterically. So
I mean, these things happen. And at the time I was like, but then I just laughed because I'm thinking, you know, you think you're doing so good on the outside. And then something comes up that says, oh, look, you look really funny today. You know, so I mean, I just had to grasp those things. I was so grateful that I do have a really good sense of humor. I've always been the one in the family that, you know, when we go camping, I would tell all the jokes for a couple hours in a night, you know, it's like, I'm that one. And so I don't remember any of them now, but, but I was so glad that I also was very comfortable with myself.
Yeah.
I knew who I was. And so that helps a lot because you are just, it feels like you have no control, you know, with the treatment, with what's happening to your body. So I felt that the one thing I could control was my attitude. And because I believed so much in having a good attitude and working at it, knowing that it just doesn't happen. You have to choose gratitude. You have to choose joy. You can easily choose to start being down and stay down. But I didn't like that part. I like to be up.
Yes.
So that's those things I learned through that whole thing. I feel like I've had several lives in this lifetime.
Oh,
because I started over.
Right. And sounds like, you know, you've been on, and I was too, kind of a spiritual journey from the point of having a medical diagnosis to coming through the treatments to getting kind of to the other side. I know that you have an upcoming class that you're teaching about discovering your angels. And I know everybody is on a different spectrum when it comes to faith, belief, religion, everything in life. I've always accepted whoever comes through our Women Ties doors, because to me, everybody's individual preference is their individual preference. And I've never excluded anybody for anything. And I have my own spirituality, you know. So what did you find going through your process that led you through the spiritual journey, and even now onto doing a class about discovering your angels?
Well, there's synchronicities. They're not really coincidences. They're synchronicities. You get into the right spot at the right time in the stream of all this energy that's in the earth. And I firmly believe that. So just prior to being diagnosed, I'd gone and had a Reiki treatment, which I'd never heard of, but decided to try it. Loved it, signed up to learn how to do it before I knew all this was coming. So that was the first thing. Secondly, she was doing a class on angels, and I thought, oh, I always believed in angels, and we all know Gabriel announces the birth, and I know about angels, but I thought something just said you really need to learn about angels. Okay, so I did. And I found out how I can't believe that I spent 65 years of my life not realizing that we have these invisible helpers that are willing to nudge us and whisper and give us ideas and support us. And I never felt alone after that.
Yeah.
I've always been really a spiritual person, but never had a real direction. I've tried a lot of religions, but never found that spirituality that now I found with working with the angels, understanding that they're right here, they're right here with us. And many times during the treatment, I preferred to stay by myself, and it was like a 5-hour session. And so I would be sitting there thinking, meditating, listening to music, trying to do all these things. It's kind of like, if your hair could grow back, you'd stand upside down on Main Street, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I'll do it. So I learned to identify the energy around me as certain angels. Now, that when you read books about angels, they'll tell you the very latest ones anyway, will say it's just one big energy. It's not really individual. However, we as humans want to be able to identify. So they allow us this little eccentricity of being aware of them. And at one point, my cancer was gone, and then it came back, and then it came back. And at one of those points, I had a lymph node right near my navel that was really bothersome, and they couldn't get it treated, and it kept showing up. And so really, really wise spiritual teacher said to me, you need to work with Archangel Raphael and Archangel Michael. Michael's got a big sword. He'll cut that out, and Raphael will fill it with healing balm. I thought, well, this is pretty woo-woo. Yeah. Right. This is even getting a little much for Marion. However, I visualized that every day. Now, of course, there wasn't any sword or anything, but it was just the visualization of getting rid of it. And when I went back for my PET scan in September, it was gone. Yeah. It was gone. It was like, oh, this is very scary. Yeah. This is like, wow. So I was like, thank you, thank you, thank you, because this was amazing. I had another one come back in another spot in December, but that one needed radiation, and radiation is a pretty fun thing too.
Yeah. I have a very good friend who is, and I can't even say going through her fourth bout of breast cancer, because she's such a positive, wonderful person who only visualizes not the cancer cells, but the vibrant love and energy that's coming into her body And
Mhm.
she says, so many of these doctors that treat cancer, it's like they treat you like it already is a death sentence.
Yes.
She really has been on this empowered wellness journey to share the turning of it around. And I know that she believes very strongly in angels and vibrations and
Oh, yeah.
visualization and meditation, and she's doing really well. And so I think there's something to what you're sharing.
There is. And, the other part of that is if it hadn't gone this way, okay, if I had actually come to the point of dying, I still would have been so grateful to know that the angels were going to be right there to make this journey easier. I have been with, in my family, when someone's very ill, I'm the one they call to come because I with someone passing. I'm okay with how that feels. I'm okay with talking them through it and being with them. So it's been such a privilege to be with various of my family members. I'm the youngest of 8, so there's a lot of older ones that
Yes.
have passed. So I was okay with that. If that would have been it, it still would have been worth learning all of this because it would have helped that part. Not everybody that has the result I did. You can believe in angels and say all the positive things you want, but if your body is breaking down and it's not going to come back, that's the way it is. So to me, it was being prepared no matter.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
So
great.
that's why I'm very excited to be teaching a class on angels, because a lot of people say to me, how did you get so familiar with them? Like they're just like they're your friends now, and you know how to get support. I have a little post-it note on my computer that says the angels are right here waiting for me to ask for help, because they recognize our free will, so they can't interfere in our lives or help in our lives unless we ask. So that's a very powerful thing as well.
Yeah.
So
True.
I'm just so comfortable with angels now that other people want to know. I mean, it's been a rotten year, right? Like you're stressed beyond belief. People are learning how to work at home, not work at home, teach their children all these things. So I thought, well, maybe if they know a little bit about angels, they will get a little relief.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Now, when are you starting? How would they find out about your class?
I'll give you the link when I have it set up, but it will be starting June 5th. It's 10 weeks. We're going to do 10 angels. And the class is like a little introduction of the angel. I'll talk a little bit about the angel, and then we'll talk about how to get in touch with them, how to get the feeling of that by vibration. There'll be a meditation on that angel so that you can really start to think about that angel and bring them closer to you. And that will be the class. It'll be about an hour, and 10 different angels. It was very hard to pick only 10. But I do have my favorites, so you're getting my favorites.
Well, that's all right. It's okay. You're teaching the class, so you get to choose the ones you want.
I have to tell you a little bit about how the title came.
Sure, absolutely.
Before my treatments on Fridays, I would go on Thursday to walk on a labyrinth. Do you know what a labyrinth is?
Yes.
Okay. If you don't know what it is and you're listening to this, it's a path, a spiritual path, and it's laid out with rocks, or sometimes it's something else. But there's one in Brockport, and it's registered on the International Labyrinth. So if you want to know more about it, there's lots of information on the internet. So I went and walked, and it was such a spiritual time every time. It was my preparation to go back the next day for another treatment, because the first 4 or 5, you can just go. After that, you know what's going to happen. So you don't want to go. So I needed to get my head ready. And I was walking, I got to the center and I was stopped there, and there's a sculpture there. And I was just meditating, saying, thank you that this is available. Thank you that this horrible stuff is actually helping, because they say it is. And I was just standing there, and I heard this in my head. The name is Gloriously Grateful. And I thought, okay, that sounds like a good name. I was thinking of writing a blog. So I immediately, after I got home, bought the domain name gloriously-grateful.com because I was going to write a blog. So that's lasted through the whole 3 years of treatments. And then I started in a meditation. I kept hearing it was Archangel Gabriel, who is the person who takes care of writers. So he kept saying, it's a book. It's a book. I kept hearing, it's a book. I'm going, no, I don't want to write a book. It's a book. It's a book. You got to write a book. People need to hear this. It's encouraging for them. This went on for months. And I was like, no, I'm not writing a book. However,
you wrote a book.
Guess what? Here's the book.
Here's the book. Beautiful.
So it was really inspired by my journey, but inspired by the intense desire I have, the passion I have for making people's lives a little better, making your life a little lighter, bringing some joy and gratitude into your life every day.
Yeah, that is. How would somebody order that book? Would they go to your website or what's?
They can go to my website, marionandrews.com. That's Marion Andrews.com, or it's available on Amazon. Gloriously Grateful.
Well, I have to steal the name for a minute to say that I'm gloriously grateful for this time with you today. And I think anybody listening to this interview is going to feel the same way. You know, I learned a long time ago that women like to be inspired by other women. And you do that beautifully every time you come into one of our events, obviously doing it with your book, and we'll be doing it with your Discover Angels class. So I'm so grateful to you today for sharing your story. And I hope that anybody listening will go to marionandrews.com to order her book, Gloriously Grateful, and then also pay attention to when her class is. Mark June 5th on your calendar, and then you can check it probably marionandrews.com or back to womenties.com, and we'll make sure to share that information with you, and I might be on that call as well. So Marion, thank you so much for your time today. It's been an absolute honor to have you with us.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it.
Okay, thank you.